In this lesson, we're going to look at some of the date and time functions that Excel has to offer. Before starting on the functions themselves, I just want to talk a little bit about how dates and times are stored or created in. I've dialed this up in Microsoft Excel Help, and it tells us here that Excel stores data as sequential numbers. So dates aren't dates, they're actually numbers. The 1st of January 1900 is number 1. 1st of January 2008 is serial number 39,448. And that's because there's 39,448 days after January 1st, 1900. Because times are considered to be portions of a day, times are stored as fractions. Also, because these are numbers, they can be added, subtracted, included in other calculations. These are the functions that we're going to be working with. The first two aren't actually functions, they're keyboard shortcuts. So the first one, that's Control semicolon, gives you the current date as text. So if I click in cell A2, and on my keyboard I'm just going to press and hold Control, press and release the semicolon, and then release the Control key. Gives me today's date, but it's text. It's simply text, puts in today's date, and it won't ever be updated. And the same works for Control Shift semicolon, except that it gives the time. So I'm going to try this. Control, hold that down, hold down the Shift key at the same time, press and release semicolon, and then release the Shift and Control keys. And there's the current time. Again, it's as text. So they're two useful keyboard shortcuts. Let's move on to the real functions now. The first one is the today function, and that gives us today's date. But because we're using a function, this would be updated. So let's try that. Any function, we start with the equals sign, and then we have the name of the function. In this case, today. And then every function has round brackets and then an argument. Now, as we get to that point, you'll have noticed we get this screen tip pops up that gives us some clues as to how the function should go. And you can see from that that there are no arguments inside these brackets. It's simply equals today, open and close the brackets. Remember, we've got to make this happen now. So we either press the enter key on the keyboard or we click on the green tick up here. That enters the function. There's the function. There's today's date. But you can see I've got the cell selected, and it shows us up here that inside that cell, behind that number, there is actually this function, equals today, brackets. As opposed to this date, which is text, this date is a function. Because that's a function, if we save this document, open it up tomorrow it will say the 5th of January. The day after, it will say the 6th of January. That's the today function, returns today's date. The next function we'll look at is now, and that works exactly the same as today, except it gives the date and the time. So we'll try that. In cell A8, I'm going to type in equals now, open the brackets, and we get the useful screen tip explaining what should go inside the brackets. And again, in this instance, nothing. There's no arguments. So we simply close the brackets, press the enter key or the green tick, and there's the function. It's got today's date with the time. Again, if I click on that cell, you can see that it's a function. The results of that function have been displayed as a time and date. Before we move on to the next function, remember I said that dates are stored as serial numbers? Well, we can have a look at that now. We've got today's date. If we use this function, which is the date function, we can see what serial number is behind this displayed date. So we'll put in equals date and open our brackets, and this useful screen tip shows us how it works, tells us the next thing we've got to enter is the year. So I'm going to put in today's date. So the year is 2009. The screen tip tells us we next need a comma, and then it jumps across and tells us we need month. and put in 12. Screen tip says we need a comma. Screen tip says we need the day. Today's date is the 4th. I close the brackets, and remember the enter key or the tick. Never click away. Okay, so we've got our serial number there. So I've got a date, 4th of December 2009, and that's the serial number that is actually behind that date. We need to remember that idea of a serial number behind a date to work with the next three functions: day, month, and year. Now these all work in exactly the same way. Day retrieves the date, the day date, from that number, from that serial number. Month returns the month from that serial number, and year returns the year from that serial number. So let's try it. We'll type it in again, equals day, open brackets, what's the serial number? So we're going to type in this number 40151. Close the brackets. Hope you're thinking ahead here. You should know that this is going to return the number 4, because this is the date that we're working on, the 4th. Yep, there's the 4th. Let's try for the month. Equals month, open brackets, put in that serial number 40151. Close the brackets, press the enter key. This should come with 12. Yes, it has. And finally, we'll try it for the year. Equals year, brackets, serial number, close brackets, enter. 2009. So we've taken a serial number, that's how a date is stored, and put it in. From that, we've retrieved the day, the month, and the year. Okay, I'm just going to delete those. And let's work with the day again. Remember, it equals day, open brackets. Although this asks for a serial number, it doesn't always have to be. We can put a cell reference in. So for example, let's use a cell reference that has this today function in it. So that's A6. And that works as well. That's picked up the day from that date. It can also work on text. So let's try it with the month. We could do equals month. And we can actually type in text in quotes the date. So let's try 23rd of the 12th, 2009. 23, 12, 2009. See, it doesn't like that. What I've done wrong? I've forgotten to close my quotation marks. So we'll sort that out. 23rd of the 12th, 2009. And there we are. It's picking up the 12 out of the 23rd of the 12th, 2009, but only if it's text. Now, working with text isn't ideal. You're better off working with the serial numbers if you can, but sometimes it can work. For example, if you've got a cell set up as I have here with a date in, but for whatever reason that date has got to be formatted in a text format, then we can still usually pick that up. So we'll try that. Equals year, open brackets, we'll pick up this cell E1, and it works from there as well. That's a range of functions. I've typed those all in, but you could of course use the function palette, and you can dial up all your date and time functions, and there's those in there plus many others. Spend some time having a look at a few of these and have fun with dates and times.